Welcome back to Home Improvement Woodworking. I started my first shop in the late 90s, and I've collected all these books to learn woodworking, and I want to share with you the top 10 books I recommend for you. Some of them are broad, some of them are more specific, but it's important for me to share these with you because I think it'll help you. When you're building skills, you need two things. One is knowledge, and the other is experience. And when you combine knowledge and experience, you end up learning a skill. And that's what this is about. So these top 10 books I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to give you in David Letterman style. That's reverse order. I'm going to count down to my #1 recommended book that I know everyone's going to love.
Our videos show you how to add value and character to your home.
This is the centerpiece of the room, so it really needs to visually work.
Learn how to get quality results that you'll be proud of. Welcome to Home Improvement Woodworking.
I'll start by clearing these out of the way and pull out the top 10. The first one I want to share with you is Finishing by Jeff Jewitt. This is a Taunton press, and actually 5 out of the 10 of these books here are from Taunton Press. They make some great books. This finishing book is what I would call essential for anyone who's doing woodworking. Finishing can be challenging. There are a number of different finishes out there. There's different ways to prep for finishes, different ways to apply stains, different types of stains. It can be really confusing. So this book I really enjoyed because it's very visual, and I'm a visual person. You can see even the table of contents here has visuals in it to let you know what's in each of the chapters. It covers off everything from the finishing environment to the types of tools, how to fix defects. It's really a rich book. So something I would recommend for everyone putting in their library and reading through this. The second one I've got here is more specific. This one is Trim Carpentry for Built-ins. This is a book I've used a lot in my home. A lot of the videos on home improvement woodworking are working on staircases and windowsills and fireplace mantles. Here you can see an example of wainscoting and some illustrations of different wainscoting caps. Here they've got pro tips on the pages which are really helpful. It's helped me understand the complexities of laying out wainscoting in staircases. This is a great resource to have so you can add value to your home. That's what we advocate here. The next one is Methods of Work. This is the workshop. So there's 25 years of tips from Fine Woodworking. Fine Woodworking is a magazine I'm a big fan of, Taunton Press publication as well. And in here you can see I've dog-eared a few pages. And an example of one thing here is user-friendly sanding blocks. This tip is about putting cork pads on the bottom of a sanding block and beveling the sides here so they're easier to hang on to. The next one is specific to wood turning. If you've bought a lathe, I've got one here. The American Association of Woodturners is a great organization, and they've published this book called Getting Started in Wood Turning. I've read this book literally cover to cover, and it's really helped me understand the principles of operating the tool safely and also different types of turning, whether you're doing spindle turning, bowl turning. I've learned to use a lathe in my workshop to reproduce furniture parts. This is something I've learned largely from this book, and it's extended the capability of what I can do and what I can offer for my customers in my furniture repair business. So highly recommend this. If anyone's learning wood turning, I would say this is the first book I would recommend. And it's something that I'm certainly referring a lot to. I've got some dog-eared pages here, so great resource. The next one is a complete manual of wood bending. This is something I became interested in after I entered the contest by Modern Maker podcast. And they had something about building anything you want out of one sheet of plywood. So I ended up doing a fairly complex kerf cut plywood bent table. I call it an hourglass table. Something I was really proud of when I built it, but it got me more interested in learning how to bend wood. So that's why I bought this. So if you've got an interest in that and how to do it, this has got all the tips and techniques, everything you'd need to know about bending wood, the type of species that you'd use to bend wood. Really a great resource. This next one is called Understanding Wood, and it might sound a little bland for a woodworking book, but it is essential. If you don't understand that wood moves, you're in for a challenge. As humidity changes from winter to summer, that wood expands and contracts, and it needs to move. If you screw it down tightly and you've got a wide board, that board will crack over time. So understanding wood is really an important guide. It teaches you about the different types of wood movement and different species, how much it moves. It is fairly technical in spots. I've skimmed over a bunch of it. but the essentials of learning that wood moves is really, really important for woodworkers. The next one I've got here is hand tools for woodworkers. So you might be someone who has started woodworking on machines and hasn't really gotten into hand tools. I've got a number of hand tools that I use, but I'm not primarily a hand tool woodworker. I'm a machine woodworker. But I have learned how to use these tools and the benefits of them. There are just some things you can't do with machines. The subtitle is Principles and Techniques. It walks through all the different hand tools that you would use, how to sharpen them, how to care for them, how to use them, and what they're used for. So a great resource I would highly recommend. So down to number 3 here, Cabinetmaking. This is a book by Time Life Books, The Art of Woodworking. Now, this is one that I've had, let me see if there's a date on it, had from the 90s. Something I picked up early. And you can tell a little bit by the style of how people are dressed in this that it is an older book. But it's something that taught me the basics of joinery. How things are built, how they're put together. And over the years, as I was learning and stretching my skills and taking on more commissioned woodworking projects, this resource has really helped me out in terms of how do I make this certain thing, how do I join a certain thing. It's been a reference manual for me in my cabinet making work. So whether you're building bookshelves, you're building cabinets for a kitchen, building furniture, tables, nightstands, this really is a great guide that helps you understand how all of that stuff works. Now, number 2 is not so much about learning woodworking, but more talking about the craft. You might have heard of this book before. It's called A Cabinetmaker's Notebook. This is James Krenov, and a very famous woodworker if you haven't heard of him. And this is walking through sort of his life and his work and some of his philosophies. One thing I learned about it was to appreciate the natural wood and the material and how to design and build things that way. For example, this cabinet here, the top board I've got here that's got an arch had a natural curve to it. The grain actually had an arch to it. So I chose that specific piece of wood for this cabinet because of that reason. So a little inspiration from James Krenov on this one. And the number 1 book I would recommend for everyone, this is a fantastic resource, this is The Workshop Book. This is a book I got in 1999. And it's a great resource because it helped me understand how to set up my first workshop. So if you're dreaming of your first workshop, or even you're building your 5th workshop, this book helps you understand where to lay out your tools, not just from a plan perspective, a footprint, but also 3-dimensionally, understanding setting things at certain heights to allow material to move underneath them more freely, giving you more space in those tight, confined workshops. Of all the books in my library, this is my favorite book. One that I've had sitting on the coffee table over the years that I can just pick up and enjoy over a coffee. I hope you found this useful. I'd like you to share it with others so they can learn from this list as well. The list is in the video description if you didn't catch those names. They're all listed there with links so you can purchase them. And if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can click over here and click on the bell icon, and that will notify you every time we publish a video. Until next time, enjoy your time in the workshop.